Really quick, can you say and spell your first and last name and give me your title?
Yeah, Michael Huang, MD, Huang.
Ashley Matsudo, practice manager for Dr. Huang.
Can you say, spell your name as well?
Matsudo.
Perfect. Okay. And then we'll just get him when he comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick, can you talk to me about all these accusations? What's going on how do you feel about these accusations right now?
Yes, this is all new to me. We were not aware of or even known that there was any accusation about my practice. So I think we're really stunned. This is actually a sign of something that's very, very wrong with our committee and with California now. So when physicians basically don't do their job and help their patients when they can't breathe, or if they basically give up on patients when they are COVID positive, they got nowhere else to go. And just by word of mouth, my practice has been the treatment central for California. And we even have people calling in from Massachusetts and New York, St. Louis, Obispo, San Diego, and basically begging and crying on the phone for help. Either they're sick with COVID, or they are suffering from complication their kids are suffering complication from the mask. So if I'm the only person or one of the few physicians I'm writing exemptions, that means all the other physicians in this state, in my area, in many other areas outside the state, basically gave up on their patient. And this is really, really sad.
So, we spoke with somebody with the Sutter Independent Physicians Group today who told us that they had let you go from your position from there. What was that like for you to be let go from that position?
Yes, I was a practicing physician at Kaiser for 10 years. And I decided it's time for me to do something on my own. So I stepped into Sutter Medical Group for 2 years. Then I became Sutter Independent Physician. When I was with Sutter Independent Physician, I basically got awarded for being one of the most efficient physicians in providing quality care. When COVID started, I have asthma. At my best, my lung capacity is about 80%. I use 3 different inhalers to maintain my breathing. So I have an exemption. I can't wear masks all day, especially working out. So because of that, Sutter Independent Physician felt strongly that because I can't wear a mask all day at work, they were going to let me go. Okay. I think that's really, really unfortunate. Because of that, we have lost a lot of Sutter patients that need our help. But then again, we were put into a situation where everyone's flooding to us from all over California. And we end up seeing thousands and thousands of patients from different medical facilities, including Sutter, where they basically cancel my contract and asking us for help. And we end up seeing hundreds and hundreds of COVID positive patients and treating them appropriately. But we haven't lost one patient. So I think with Sutter canceling my contract is really a shame. They truly care about patient care instead of putting out big billboard, putting out some pretty picture and painting this picture as they care. They should accommodate for my medical conditions, allow me to continue to see Sutter patients, and not hide behind a shield portraying it as if they're doing something safe. They are not.
So, I mean, they're saying that, you're giving out basically fake exemption cards. Is it safe to say you don't think they're fake? That's not what you're doing?
Lou.
Sorry, can you spell your first and last name for me?
I can say it, yeah, sure. Louis Foreman.
Can you spell it?
Yeah, Louis, Foreman, Forman.
Okay, and your child is a patient of his, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to answer that question.
Well, specifically, COVID was very disruptive for my family last year. Obviously, kids came out of school, and there were a lot of concerns in the uncharted waters, so to speak. We didn't really know how to navigate it. So we went along with all of the mandates that were set forth by the state. Well, we fast forward it now, and now we're in August of 2021, and we're going to start school, and they enforce a mask mandate. Well, last year, both my children were impacted severely, I would say negatively, both physically and mentally, by having to wear the mask. They didn't have a good learning environment. It wasn't a good experience. And so we were looking for a physician that was willing to advocate on our behalf. Someone that had the courage to say, hey, here's two children that are being impacted negatively because of a mandate from the state of California that doesn't necessarily look at each individual children's or child's needs. So we found Dr. Huang. We went through a thorough appointment with him, and he found that it was actually something that was medically required for my children, that it was reasonable, a reasonable request, medically supported, to have my children not have to wear masks. And because he has that courage to stand up for people like myself in this community, I just feel blessed that I have someone speaking on behalf of my children.
So then, what do you have to say then for people who say that these are fake exemption cards?
So first of all, we don't hand out cards.
Okay.
If the school have a form, we fill out the form. If they don't have a form, we write a letter for them. So every exam require a clinic appointment. If they are very, very far away, for example, if they live down in San Diego, we may do a telemedicine, or St. Louis Obispo. We will basically do a telemedicine because it's much more dangerous for them to get in a car and drive here than contracting COVID. So every visit require a physician evaluation from me, and we evaluate their permanent needs, and not just for exemption, for treatment of coronavirus, for side effect from the vaccine, or whether they should get a vaccine or not. So everything is evaluated very carefully.
And sorry, what school do your kids go to?
They're in the Eureka School District.
Okay. Because we're in Placer County right now, the Placer County superintendent here basically gave me a statement essentially saying that, if anybody needs to be exempt from this, they need, of course, to go to proper protocols, get an exemption from a certified physician, but then on top of that, they are going to do extra checks and balances to make sure these exemptions are legitimate. When we inquired about this story, it seems like they may not be taking exemptions from your office. If that's the case,
Are you asking about my experience?
Yeah. So if you're providing your schools, with his name as the exemption, and they're like, sorry, we're not going to take this, then what would you?
That's not correct. Okay. Both my children are in school today. They have used the exemption that was provided by Dr. Huang's office. Both schools have worked with us, and my kids are now participating in normal, healthy, everyday classroom activities. And I'm sure that the schools are making adjustments to accommodate both the masked and unmasked children. Ultimately, my priority is the health and safety and welfare of my kids. I want other kids to be safe. I want them to be healthy, but I have to think about my kids first as they participate within the community. And I think that the school district is working with us so far. And our children, my kids are they're in school, and they're not wearing the masks. And I couldn't be happier because it hurt them last year. It was something that no parent needs to experience if they don't have to.
And Ashley's children actually goes to the school district where the superintendent has made the claim that they're not going to honor it. And then why don't you share that experience?
Yeah, so my children, they see Dr. Huang. They've been seeing them for the past 4 years. Just if they're sick or if we have questions, concerns, we'll go to him. Of course, they have their own medical conditions that requires them not to wear a mask. So I had to bring my kids here. Dr. Huang triaged them accordingly. We were able to get that exemption. Thank God. They are in school today, but we have had so much feedback from the superintendent, Bill McDonald. just inquiring what you guys are doing is wrong. He has actually called our practice, threatening, saying, hey, we've noticed what you're doing. These exemptions are not good. We need to know the medical condition. What's going on? You guys need to send us their medical records so we can approve. Oh, well, it sounds like you're breaking HIPAA. We won't be sending, this, it's signed by a medical doctor. Please accept it. And of course, they weren't accepted for 2 days, because we did not label a medical condition per HIPAA regulation. Finally, I said, you know what, I need to get my kids back in class. Maybe they'll just have to deal with it, deal with it. They can go to school and have the bloody noses and headaches. They will just have to deal with it because there's nothing else that we can do. They're not approving it. What was next? So finally I said, I cannot. I need to stand my ground. Dr. Huang wrote their medical condition on the paper and we had to send it back, and finally it was approved after 72 hours. So my children they suffered for 3 days. Came home, bloody nose. It was bad, really, really bad. Finally today they were able to go to school without a mask.
And they're in the Placer County.
They are,
Placer.
and Rockland Unified
Okay,
School District.
got it.
Yes.
Just last thing, because I know we're coming up on 1:30. For anybody who's watching tonight who, may be a little alarmed by all the accusations, in your what would you like to say in your defense to
Sure.
people? Yeah.
For the parents that are concerned, I think it's right. You need to be concerned that your physician in this company are not doing their job. That means I am picking up everyone else's slack. My office has been open nonstop for weeks. We're seeing patients on weekends. We're seeing patients that other physicians refuse to help for legitimate medical condition, medical issues. We see patients with cerebral palsy, patients with heart surgeries, that their pediatrician, their cardiologists are too afraid to stand up and help them. So these exemptions are legitimate, and also parents, do not be afraid that your kids, if they do get a coronavirus infection, their survival rate is literally 100%, unless they are treated inappropriately or they have other medical conditions. The things that needs to be fair for itself is actually the physician in this community that basically refuse, and many of them refuse to do their job and stand up and to protect kids for Lou's children, for Ashley's children, for everyone else's children. So we are actually working day and night. We need help from the community, help to provide medical services for children and adults alike. And for those physicians out there that don't know or too afraid to treat coronavirus patient, talk to me. Look at FLCCC website. They have very, very good guidelines on how to treat COVID patients. And so far, we have treated hundreds of coronavirus patients, and we haven't lost one patient.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate your time.
Tell me a little bit about your practice. How long have you been here? Just your patients?
I've been practicing in the greater Sacramento area since 2004, and I've been in this private practice since 2017.
And generally, your position on the use of masks?
Mask has its place, just like anything that we do in medicine. So imagine for example, a medicine such as Lasix, a water pill for heart failure, it can save life. But it doesn't mean that we should encourage everyone to use it, including kids, because that can cause harm. Mask definitely has its place. Viruses are very, very small. They're so small that you can basically fly right through the mask that you're wearing, most of the surgical masks. And so it's not terribly effective. But for example, larger bacteria such as tuberculosis, if I am the biggest coronavirus out there, a TB bacteria is 20-story tall. Right? It's not going to fly through the small opening as easily. So we definitely utilize masks here appropriately according to the circumstance.
So you don't believe masks can protect children from the spread of COVID-19?
Not with the type of mask they use and not with the circumstance that they're in, especially in the school, yes.
There's a letter circulating right now from parents of concerned parents of students, and they accuse you in your practice of selling mask exemptions.
Okay, that's very, I'm very offended, and it's very untrue, matter of fact, 100% untrue. My practice have been put in a special situation since last year, since the pandemic began. My practice never closed one day. That means all the other practice that closed, the patient basically flocked to us. So since last year, we have seen thousands of patients from UC Davis, Kaiser, Dignity Health, you name it. So we end up treating hundreds of COVID positive patients. So as a result, words got out that we are very familiar and we're very comfortable in managing this illness and also with mask. So just word started to spread, and now we literally have people coming in from all over the Sacramento area, the Bay Area, San Luis Obispo, San Diego. We have people calling us from Massachusetts.
How many mask exemptions have you signed?
I do not keep count because we literally see hundreds and thousands of patients. So I do a handful of them. I do a lot more for kids. So
What are the criteria for mask exemption?
the criteria for mask exemption, everyone's case is different. I do need to see them in the office and evaluate and take a look at each situation and make a decision accordingly. You can be as severe as if you have cerebral palsy, where they basically have very great trouble breathing and expressing their words, to someone with basically heart surgery, where they put a mask on and they go faint, to asthma, severe eczema on the face. There is just an ending list of reasons why someone will not do well wearing a face mask.
So all of the students that you've signed mask exemptions for in this district met that criteria?
Make that criteria and more. There are many reasons I have not listed, but again, just like medicine, there are so many different reasons why a mask could damage a child's developing brain, their heart, and their body.
The central allegation is that you're selling these exemptions. How much does it cost?
Okay, so when we do this mask exemption and answering the allegation, I think this is more a representation of a problem with our community. When their pediatrician, their family practitioner stop doing their job, basically when parents like Lou and parents like Ashley go to their physician and say, please help me, my kids are suffering side effects from the mask. Go to their physician, the physician will literally tell them, I won't do it. It's too risky. And then end up coming to me. So that's a sign. So as to answer your question, how much do we charge? When patient call, my office manager, Ashley, will triage. They have insurance, we'll take the insurance, we'll take their copay. That's it. If they have insurance that we do not take, we will offer them to pay out of pocket. And those fees are $200 per child. So that's actually very reasonable according to the fees that committee charges. If you go to urgent care, you cannot even walk in there without paying $300. 20 chickens, one of my chicken got sick. I took the chicken to the vet. It was $280. So my builder actually begging me to charge more. And I decided not to because this is not right.
But you can see how, to an outside observer, it looks like you're selling exemptions.
In what way?
In conversations that I've had with other physicians, for a school district like for Placer County, for example, I understand that there might be one or two cases of children who might meet the criteria for a mask exemption, but we've seen dozens of children in this district alone.
Okay. Well, I think the number should be a lot higher than a dozen. I'm really shocked it's only a dozen. Because I'll have Ashley fill in how many calls we're fielding.
In the past last hour I had 200 phone calls.
Okay, and explain what these parents, let's say, expression.
Hi, and I get a hi, and then all of a sudden I hear tears. I hear crying. I go talk to me. What's going on? I need to get a mask exemption. My child, for instance, the college has leukemia. Going through chemotherapy. My child cannot breathe. He can't talk right now. He's very sick. I need help. I took him to my Kaiser pediatrician and begged and pleaded for mask exemption or to help out my child. They will not see him. Can you help me? So let's get them in.
And this, of course, I mean, that's heartbreaking, and I understand that situation, but the vast majority of students now who have these mask exemptions presumably don't have leukemia or a similar condition.
Again, this is something that I cannot determine. I can only determine with the patient I see in my office, and I treat them individually and I see them one by one. I cannot tell you how many people we have in this district that has leukemia, how many people have heart disease, how many kids have asthma. But I'm just telling you, the number of kids that's suffering out there is far more higher than a dozen. And another thing is, a child could come in and be perfectly healthy. No asthma, no leukemia, no heart disease. You put a mask on them for 5 hours straight. They're going to breathe back in the waste they're trying to eliminate from their lungs. They're going to breathe back in the CO2 they're trying to eliminate. You basically create a CO2 poisoning or hypercapnia, if you want a medical term. Their blood pH becomes acidic, sour, and that will make them sick. It will be harder for them to concentrate at school. You get a headache, you'll get shortness of breath. It's going to damage their developing brain, their lungs. Every kid's response to this hypercapnia, CO2 poisoning, among many other things, when you put a mask on them all day long, some of the kids, even in the gym, doing PE.
How is the medical community, the physicians in your circles, how are they accepting of what you're doing?
Well, in my community, 99% of physicians, 95% physician work for a large managed care group. That means if they don't fall in line with what the high-up says, they get in trouble. I'm sure that there are many physicians out there, and I'm speaking to you out there. Stand up, be brave. Please help these kids. I cannot do it alone. We've been working nonstop 7 days a week. We were here last night till 10 o'clock at night. I was here yesterday till 11. We need your help. So the physician, I'm sure that there are many that know these things are harmful for kids, and not just the mask. There's many other aspects of treating COVID patients, but their hands are tied.
Are you afraid of, I know you're speaking out and you're doing what you're doing, but are you afraid of losing your license? Are you afraid of like the state coming down on you in your practice or anything like this at this time?
To answer that question simply, no. I am more afraid if I don't do the right thing and stand up and help our kids. If you, as a physician, you can come into my office and see a child that's sitting in my exam room in tears, telling me that they can't breathe, telling me that they are having headache, that they pass out in school, and tell me that you will not do a thing to help that child, then I think you really should do something else. I will be more afraid if I don't help these kids. If I don't do the right thing as a medical doctor, I will be more afraid if I don't stand up and help protect kids that cannot protect themselves.
And do you believe, if I can just clarify this, do you believe all children meet the criteria then to have this mask exemption?
In general, we need to look at what mask does and what kind of harm it carries.
But if I just may ask, I mean, to really kind of drill down on this, any child, regardless of their health status, could come here and get the mask exemption from your office?
Not every child is different, so I need to examine each patient individually.
Do you do the COVID tests here too as well for these kids? I mean, because here's my question: when you give them these exemptions, do you send them back with paperwork or whatever to the schools, letting them know that these kids are COVID negative?
The COVID test, here's the thing about COVID tests. The COVID test has so much false positives. Okay? What we instruct the parents to do is, you send your child, just like with or without mask. If there's no mask mandate, please don't send your kids to school if they're sick. Okay? That's a guideline that we tell our parents. Because when you test people that don't have COVID symptoms with a COVID test, false positive rate can be as high as 75%. You can just see Elon Musk. He had a COVID test. 4 of them, 2 of them positive, 2 of them negative. Okay? So I always tell parents, just like we have done for years and years and years in the past, if your kids are going to school, if they're sick, don't send them to school.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask Lou a question.
Absolutely.
Do you think
you want me to move the mic on him?
will the mic pick him up or?
The mic's picking her up, but if you want to ask him specific, let me just move the mic to be safe.
Okay.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just give me a couple seconds.
Then let me ask Dr. Huang just any closing comments that you have before we.
No problem.
And then we'll, because again, I want to be mindful of your time.
Absolutely.
If there's anything that I haven't asked, or if there's any one message you want to get across.
Yes.
with that.
The fact that I have these accusations on me, I think it's a sign of a greater issue in our community, in our state. That the governor is sending out a mandate that's harming our children. These children do not have a voice, and they are calling us in droves, asking and pleading for help. So I asked the Governor Newsom, if you're going to continue to be our governor in the next year or so, please rescind this requirement for masks for kids, because the damage is far more greater than the benefit. And as for the physician in the community, I do encourage you to step up, be brave, help your patient. If they need a mask exemption, please give them one. I'm only one person, I can only do so much. And I need everyone's help and to protect our children for those people that cannot help themselves.
There is, I'm sorry, and I did just have one more question, because I understand that a school board meeting on Monday was disrupted and by folks who do not want their children to be wearing masks. We've heard there were insults and belligerent and shouting. Passions were running high. Do you agree with that kind of tactic?
I was not aware of that school meeting, but I think, do you have children yourself?
I do not.
Okay.
I have a sixth grader, and I've had issues with a lot of this stuff too.
If you have a child, imagine a school is a place where the kids go to, where the teacher can pick out signs of child abuse and injury and help protect the kids. But now, the school is actually a place where kids go to suffering from physical and mental injury and abuse. I think if you're a parent, if you send your child to school and they come home sick, throwing up, vomiting, ill, can't breathe, I think you'll be more justified to say, I am really mad about this. I think any parents will speak up if your child come home and he or she is injured from the school.
So you understand the anger?
Yes, I can relate it to that anger. Yes.
And I wanted to ask you again, tell me about your morning, the number of phone calls that you've received just today.
I think this morning I walked into about 75 voicemails, 200 missed calls, and I think maybe 90 emails.
So you've heard from people all over the country.
All over the country, yes.
And how many exemptions have you signed?
I cannot recall. I do not have that exact number.
An estimate.
It's definitely more than 100. And we've been doing this since last year. So this school superintendent, as far as the accusation that they're making, is the first one that we ever had since last year. And the interesting thing is, I spoke with him on the phone yesterday, and he literally came right out accusing me of doing this for money. And I told him this is very, very insulting, because I'm actually a physician that's treating patients. I'm not making money or making more money than just seeing patients alone. So that just tells you, I don't know what their intention is. There are many other schools that are given exemption for since last year for kids that can't breathe using a mask. Not a single issue, not a single complaint.
All right, then we'll thank you again, Dr. Huang. Let's move.
I think the bigger problem is physicians and people not being able to help these children. Not even just children, just adults too. And I think that is the problem. Because we have, like I said, kids calling and sad, and parents calling and crying, and just they are left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, so clearly there's a need for these exemptions. There's a need for help. What can the community do to kind of help itself to get the word out about this kind of thing?
I think first off, they need to understand the pathophysiology of COVID, the pathophysiology of how masks work, and the survival rate of what's going on. Is this ever going to stop? Probably not. We'll have COVID-20, COVID-21. Are we going to have to layer up 2 masks, 3 masks, 4 masks? I think also if the vaccines were working, then I think we shouldn't have to wear masks. But the real problem is that there's physicians that are not standing up, doing the right thing. We have public health reaching out. Are you guys, selling exemptions for money? And not one time did they ask, do you know how to treat COVID patients? What are you seeing these patients for? What's going on with them for them to deserve a mask exemption? I think that should have been the primary question and focus rather than a money issue. And that's whatever it is. Sutter, Kaiser, UC Davis, these private entities just worrying about money, worrying about how much we're giving these exemptions out for, and that's not even it. We're not even giving them out. It's a thing of doing the right thing, and we're gonna continue doing the right thing, whether or not people stand behind it or not. We're here.
Yeah, so with large corporations seemingly only concerned with the financial aspects, people are left to small practices like you guys, right?
I would believe so, small practices, but even though we know small practices that continue to implement these masks, continue to implement the vaccine and say it's good for you and wear the mask, wear 2 masks just to be safe. So is it just more private practice that's doing the right thing? I don't know. I can't speak for other private practices. Of course we know the big guys, we know where their stance is and what they fight for. So yeah.
So are there actually any other private practices kind of doing what you guys are doing, supporting people when nobody else will?
If there is, it's very little because I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of phone calls all the way from Massachusetts to New York, all the way down to the Bay Area. So I would hope there's other practices, other physicians that are doing the right thing, making a stand. And if they are, then good. Keep doing it, stay strong. Because when you die, are you gonna die saying, wow, I really put up a fight. I helped those kids, I helped those families, I helped that little boy when he had a hard time breathing. Are you able to say that, or are you gonna die saying, wow, I died with nothing to my name?